We are live. Beena, we are live.
Hello and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Syl. How the world
Yes, good
around you?
morning,
How is
Beena.
the
Good
world around?
morning. The
Yes, how
world
is the world
around
around you?
me is most wonderful and exciting and electric and energized and beautiful. Actually, very calm outside, but still,
Mhm.
all right, the world
This
is
is
most wonderful. World is most
this is
wonderful.
good.
Love it.
This is good.
Yeah.
I asked you and I asked Syl. Okay, again before anything else. Welcome everyone, whoever is watching us live and will watch us recorded on YouTube. Please do click like and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment too,
And
please, because
Instagram.
yes, on Instagram and TikTok, because by doing so, you are going to train your online algorithm to give you more value. And of course, it is going to customize your daily intake of information and knowledge and wisdom and entertainment, whatever you want to have that. So please do customize, do pay attention to that, what you are providing in your daily feed.
Wow.
Actually, we do have
Wow.
this power to customize it. We assume that it is coming random. Actually, it is not random at all. It is coming by our
No.
choices. It is exactly materializing and giving us the insight that how our choices, deliberate choices, can make a difference, huge difference. If you want to see that, practice and do this in your online activities, and you will see that how your choices are going to impact. So this is what happened in their normal life anyway. Also, anyway, so yes, I asked Syl this question, specific question, how the world around you right now, because he is so as per my understanding and my awareness, he's the only person I know who says hello to the world. And hello world is a
Yeah.
big huge deal
Oh,
in his
very
in
big.
his world, in his life.
Oh,
He
very big
says
deal. Yeah.
this hello is not specific to anyone. This
Oh.
hello is
Saying, hello
actually
world, hello
hello
world,
world.
hello
It is
world.
to connecting to the moreness in practice right there.
Exactly,
Yes, I'm
exactly.
saying hello to, okay, I saw people who says hello to the plants and to, of course, to animals and of course to other people, but I never met anyone who says hello to the world in general.
Yeah,
It has everything, of course, included whatever in the world is. It is
yeah,
so unbiased, it is so open, it is so out of any connectivity or any association,
correct.
acceptance, freedom in pure application right there. Because when
Yeah,
you say hello to the world, you know that there are things which you might feel that, okay, they are not so nice, okay, they are good, of course, in a bigger intent, but they might not so nice, okay, they are harsh weathers, there are other things like in this world, but you are saying hello, you are connecting with everything with positivity. It's a huge deal. I want to practice that, but I always get a bit, yes, a little scared of the moreness which will come with that. Because whenever I personally do anything, I do it with my complete heart, with my intent, with like, okay, yes, now
yes,
I'm jumping in.
yes,
So but I'm not doing this because I know that how humongous this whole world is, how magnificent this world is, and there are things much bigger than me. There are strong energies out there, and connecting with them needs a lot. At least I personally feel that it needs a lot of
yes,
courage. It needs a lot of patience.
yes,
It needs a lot of strength and awareness and understanding. And of course, list can go on and on and on because it needs so much into that. But being there, like still right now, he is, of course, I don't know how long he is, since how long he is there. But being there at this point where you don't have any fear, where you don't have any reservations, where you don't have any bias towards anything, where you have the ability to disconnect all the previous associations, is a big huge deal. And this is what the perks of moreness culture. I'm
yeah,
specifically mentioning moreness culture because it is not the way of impeccability. This is going beyond that, and this is actually living, Nobelia-Living. This is where the Moreness culture actually is. And I really want to, of course, at some point in my life, I want to be there. I don't know when and how I can be, but this is so amazing for me to see someone is so open, so out of fear, so out of biasness, and so into moreness that he, or of course he, she, whoever, can connect, deliberately connect with the unknown, because you don't know
Yeah.
with what you are connecting with.
Wow, Beena.
And connecting with the positivity, connecting with the happiness,
Wow.
connecting with the joy is so brilliant. Again, okay, I tried to wrap it up in 5 minutes and I did. Thank you so much, Syl, for giving me
Wow,
this time
brilliant.
and opportunity.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Now we can
No,
connect
I'm
with
not giving you any time and opportunity. It's all we're doing this together. So you take as much time as you like.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
So thank you so much
Um,
for this. Now we can go back to and connect with Don Juan. And what we are doing here,
yes.
we are
Yes.
doing capital R reading of Don sorry, Carlos. Carlos. Wow.
Important. Yes. Yes. Important. Important. Go and look at the IG, please. Very important.
Okay.
Very important. Very
Okay.
important.
Yes, I'm going there. I always take a bit time for going there because
Yes.
I was
Yes.
busy
No,
sharing
just
my thoughts
a
over there.
wonderful, wonderful person has joined us. Imulsa.
Okay.
And see, it says Imulsa Anel or Imulsur.
Wow. Hello,
Angel. So
Emilso.
angel,
Really?
yes, you are an angel, Imulsa. You are an angel. Wonderful,
Oh,
wonderful.
that's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. She's a, I can say that now that she's a very good friend. Okay.
Yes, yes.
We are not connecting as much I really want to, but she's a very gentle person. And of course, if you guys, of course, just to introduce you that, okay, she's a wonderful artist. And
Yes,
I highly recommend everyone and suggest that please go and check out her art because you will feel that energy. I
yes.
always, okay, she was
Moreness, Moreness art.
on surface, she paints a lot of flowers and things, but I personally feel the gush of strong energy, like it is coming like a big, huge thing towards me, and
No.
it needs a lot of contentment to create this type of art. So please
And
do
Moreness, right?
check out her art.
Right.
I will say, so wonderful to see you here.
Yes. And then look on Facebook and see we've got another wonderful, marvelous, magical person there. Hello, hello, Norma. Hello, hello,
Hello,
Norma.
Norma.
Just love you, Norma. Hello, hello, hello. Always happy when you come, Norma. Always happy when you come. It makes me very happy. It gives me great joy that you're here. Norma's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person and a super dear friend whom I love very much. And Norma's just wonderful. Brilliant, brilliant. Norma writes fantastic poems as well, and also an artist, an accomplished artist also.
Oh
It's
yes.
of
Oh
people.
yes.
Share your creativity with the world, people. We all have creativity.
And
By the
just
way,
today
about
we heard,
saying,
I got
but
a chance to hear a poem from Norma. So that was wonderful, Norma. Really.
yes, it was a really cool poem. It was a fantastically good poem. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to read Norma's poem. I think so.
Oh yes. Yes, really.
Yeah, yeah. Just that's such a cool poem. Let me see if I can get there though. That's harder, easier said than done. I was going to say while I connect to Norma's poem about saying hello to the world. Yes, it is a greeting. It is a profound greeting, but it's greeting in the full sense of a greeting. You are greeting something that is larger, more magnificent, and more profound and more magical than we can comprehend, and completely outside and beyond ourselves. As such, when I'm saying hello to the world, it is for me an act of profound appreciation. And through that appreciation, I renew my awareness that I am living inside of magic. The world as we know it is magical. That's it. No matter how conventionally you look at the world, it's still a magical place. It has life, for heaven's sake. Nobody can understand how life comes it's magical. So there you go, right? Or nobody has yet. It's all, there's a moreness to everything. And when you appreciate that moreness, you don't get, and make an effort to do so, and do so on a regular basis, almost habitually, but not out of blind habit, out of deliberate habit. When you do this appreciation deliberately, you renew your connection to that magic, and you don't slip back into our habitual thinking of life as just ordinary and, well, it's kind of work and stress and blah and all this stuff, right? No. We need to get out of that habit. We've been taught that. We've been trained that. It's become a habit. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It's a choice. You can choose something alternative through that simple act of truly saying hello to the world as a profound greeting, recognition, acknowledgement, sharing of appreciation. Now you start to really connect, and you start to feel the world. Yes. And you start to realize, I can choose to feel differently. Let me repeat that. I can choose to feel differently. I can choose to feel differently. My choice. And this saying, hello, world, is that choice in action. It's a very deliberate act. And of course, it's the end point, one of them, of way of impeccability, via mood management, via association management, via the strategy of leverage. We come to this deliberate living. Yes, that's what saying hello is. All of that in there and more. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. All right, let's read Norma's wonderful poem. Here we go. No title. I am a green sheep in the field of love. You might only see me if I was white, but I'm happy to graze and love. Unseen, listen to my whisper. It may become a shout. If I am blessed by my Creator, who is a dazzle of white. Norma Boswell.
Perfect.
It's too fantastic, no? It's too fantastic. It's too brilliant. It's too brilliant. The layers to it, subtlety, sophistication, moreness, connecting to the ineffable. Just absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Most delightful. Thank you, Norma. Most delightful. Love your poem. Love your poem. All right, let's continue with our reading of, if you see the title behind there, The Teachings of Don Juan. A Yucky Way of Knowledge by Carlos Castaneda. Now that the teachings of Don Juan, yes, and it's very interesting that the teachings has a lowercase t, not a capital T. You see that there, Beena?
Yes.
Very peculiar for a book title. Absolutely incredibly peculiar that this would be so. All right, and also the subtitle is completely inaccurate. Yeah. It's completely and utterly inaccurate. Don Juan happens to be a yucky, but what he teaches Carlos is not yucky stuff. It's got nothing to do with the yuckies necessarily. There might be a touch of overlap here and there, yes, but like in any culture, you're always going to have overlap. But it's not yucky. It's not anything to do with yucky culture. It comes from Don Juan's lineage of a teacher to an apprentice, or a benefactor to an apprentice, as Don Juan calls it. That's gone back centuries and it's been passed on. But also, it's not just one. They have groups, and in that, but there's a main person in the group, or main woman and a man, now a man, now a woman. Anyway, we'll get to that later on. So the lineage has got a lot of people involved, and it goes back over the centuries. And this knowledge is built and grown into this vast complexity. And it's not just teachings of a way to live, which in Don Juan's language, his wording, he calls it the warrior's way. Yeah. Way of impeccability is some of the things.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. We have a very interesting response, or not a response, like a comment from Christopher Abbott today. And he says,
brilliant.
Godlessness.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful. That's fantastic, Christopher Abbott. Just to shake things up. See, just to shake things up. I think Christopher Abbott, for whatever reason, Christopher Abbott is Christopher Abbott. I don't know. It just grabbed me at the time when he came on that his name gets said, like, I think in Russia they say your first name and the last name together, but they say the last name first. I think so. I'm not sure. But anyway, some places in the world, they say both your first and last names. And somehow that seemed just appropriate for Christopher Abbott. I have no idea why, but so Christopher Abbott is henceforth Christopher Abbott. But I think Christopher Abbott's a bit of a maverick. Wouldn't you say, Beena?
Oh,
No.
yes.
Bit of a maverick. Just likes to come at the world a bit differently sometimes.
Yes.
So
So that
that's
was really
fantastic.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's why I interrupted you. Like, wow.
Yes, yes, yes. We can celebrate the moreness and the lessness. In Moreness-Culture, just because something is less doesn't mean it is has less value, right? And the small things, the minutiae, they are just as important as the big things. In Moreness-Culture, there is no small things. Everything is significant. Everything has meaning. Everything has purpose. Everything is valuable. Everything is wonderful. Everything. Doesn't matter what, right? I was thinking about this. Is it okay? I'll just segue a little bit before we get started. I was going to talk a bit more about the book cover, but I'll come back to that. Just my thought of the, of the while. I'll just put it that way, because it came up a couple of days ago, I think. I was thinking, is it okay to be useless? I'm asking this as a question. Emilsa, Christopher Abbott, Norma, Beena, anybody else who's joined us? Type your response, please. Do you think it is okay to be useless? So Emilsa Angel, see Emilsa Angel, I'm just not going to see that R, but maybe it's just in another language, the pronunciation, like Emilsa Angel, right? But anyway, you are an angel, so very cool. So Emilsa Angel, are you saying yes, it's okay to be useless? Beena, what do you say?
I can't be, no matter what I try. I'm part of this universe. I can't be useless. No
Is
matter
it
what
okay
I do or
if
not
you
do.
were? Would it be okay if you were? Or for somebody
No, but
else to be?
it is not coming into that.
Yeah.
Even if I would be just lying there or be there doing, and in terms of productivity, if I do nothing at all, still I can't be, because this is something.
Wonderful.
It is not happening.
Wonderful.
So yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I love this responses. That's why such a brilliant question to me. Yes. And Christopher Abbott says, I'm leaning towards no. Very good to be a bit cautious here, Christopher. Very good. Depending on their capacity, says Christopher Abbott. And Norma says we shouldn't judge. And I believe Emilsa said yes. And Beena comes up with this wonderful response, which says, even if you tried to be, you couldn't be. Because simply by existing, you have use. Whether you necessarily are perceived that way by others or not, in the greater scheme of things, everything is useful simply through existence. That was where I was heading with this, and you just said it all for me. Yeah. So Emilsa says, yes, that's a position which is nothing and all, precisely. And that is when we get into moreness, when we are nothing and we are all, or we are nothing and we are more, all at the same time. Coexisting contradictions. They are fantastically conundrums, in other words. They are really fantastic. When we understand that I can be nothing, but I am also more. Very powerful quote from Way-Of-Impeccability. I am nothing, and it's in all caps, and I am also, all caps, more, capital M, more. Right? In other words, to put that quote in another way, another wonderful quote from Way-Of-Impeccability. I may be I may be nothing compared to the universe. I may be nothing compared to the universe, but I am something compared to nothing.
Yes.
Very profound quote. Very profound quote. Yes. These illustrate that we need to unlock ourselves, unhook ourselves from the mentality of opposites. The mentality of opposites simply is the belief, the habit, the mindset, the assumption that if something's not one thing, it must be, in inverted commas, must be its opposite. Therefore, if I'm
Hmm.
If I'm something, then I'm not nothing. If I'm nothing, then I'm not something. And so you can't be both. But of course you can. It all depends on contextual understanding, right? And this mentality of opposites, it's like saying if something's not black, well, then what color is it? Well, then it must be white. What absolute nonsense. Any artist will tell you there's a zillion colors out there. But we end up in this default black and white thinking. And people even say, oh, I'm a black-white thinker. I say, oh, sorry to hear that. And they're like, huh? They don't get what I mean at first, right? Because they're very proud of being a black-white thinker. I'm like, wow, that's really tragic. It's sad to hear that. Sorry. Hey, you miss out on all the colors, right? If something's not black, it can be any color. If something's not white, it can be any color. By the way, technically, black and white are not colors. One of the few things I learned from my father when I was very young. It took me a couple of years to understand it. It stuck in my brain. When I first heard it, it didn't make any sense. But then later on, it did. He said black and white technically aren't colors. Black is the absence of color, and white is all the colors put together, which from a scientific point of view is quite correct, right? As probably most artists will tell you too. This is very powerful, though, very powerful. And now when we come to this point of being useless, right, we have to understand that we think, well, if I'm useless, then I'm not useful. You start in that black and white thinking, and that mentality of opposites. We want to get out of that, like Beena did. She just said, no, the question is flawed. Because to label something as useless is inaccurate. You cannot. It's not possible. Everything has a use. You might not understand the use, may not know the use, but it's a use. Yeah. I mean, let's say, for instance, you go around and you have absolutely no use, according to you or anybody else. Well, you're an example that mothers are going to teach their kids. See, don't be like that person there. Now you're useful. The worst thing is a good, bad example. See, everything has use. Everything has use. It all depends on our perspective, right? We shouldn't judge.
Yes.
We are all part of everything. We all have the same mother, says Norma. Oh, sorry, I misread that. But mother works just as well, right, Beena? I mean, right, Norma? Yeah. Or parent. Or yeah. Well, she said we shouldn't judge. We are all part of everything. We had the same father, said Norma, but I read that as mother rather than father. I try not to be right, or that the same origin. Again, this I do feel, Norma, that we should judge. This thing of not judging, this has become very popular, and I've explained this before. But if you don't judge, you have no morality. If you don't judge, you have no morality. Yeah? That's it. You will live without morality. In other words, if somebody's a criminal and I say they're a criminal, I'm judging. That's it. And I say, I don't approve of criminality. That's judging. How can I approve of criminality? If I don't judge, then I'm not stating I have any opinion on criminality. And by default, it becomes acceptable because there's not a negative against it. No. I have to speak up against criminality or any other nonsense behavior, which means I have to judge. When people say don't judge, what they mean is don't judge me for my indulgences. That's what they want. They don't want to have the finger pointed at them. They don't want attention drawn to the nonsense that they know they do that they cannot justify. So it's a way of preemptively protecting themselves. No, if we're living impeccably, if we're living with integrity, with honesty, we'll say, bring on the judgment. What do I have to be afraid of? What do I have to be a thing of? If you judge me and and you say, oh, and I say, wow, yeah, you're right. I didn't realize I was being stupid or silly or doing something that was causing a problem. I say, thank you very much for pointing that out. And off I go and learn. That's part of Moreness culture. It's not about judging. It's about awareness, right? Judging is trying to be superior and higher and lower. It's all hierarchy nonsense. But when we get to the Moreness of it, we really do have to apply discernment to the world around us. And that discernment, yes, in the superiority paradigm, it's called judgment. In Moreness culture, it's called discernment. Applying that says, hey, I'm not going to condone that which is not condonable, right? So this point about we shouldn't judge, no. It's one of those things of the philosophy of opposite, which is very different to the mentality of opposites. The philosophy of opposite is using opposites, not the philosophy of opposites, No, it's the philosophy of opposite, which opposite here is the conception. And we are going to take opposite and utilize it as a starting point for gaining an alternative perspective, right? So as soon as I hear shouldn't, I immediately go to the opposite and say, no, should. And then I work from there. I go sideways, I go laterally, and I get more perspectives. So philosophy of opposite says, let's do things a little differently. And let's look at this a little bit more carefully. All right, so this whole don't judge thing, no, that's just people trying to protect themselves, cover their backsides. Yeah. But, says Norma, ... It is to judge when it is a problem. It's when I'm judging you for your personal likes and preferences according to my personal likes and preferences. Now, this becomes completely bogus. Now, I'm trying to insist you must live according to my predilections, my likes, my dislikes. That's a whole other way of looking at this, right? And that's typically where judge comes into it, yes? Where it's unreasonable, irrational, illogical assessment of somebody else's behavior based on false criteria. That, yes, that's bogus, but that's just falseness. That's just lack of rationality, lack of sensibility, lack of discernment, lack of thoroughness, lack of impeccability, etc. Right? So it's not the judging that's the issue. It is the judging according to false criteria that's the issue. It's the same as the word discrimination. Discrimination is a very positive quality, but to discriminate according to false criteria, that's a negative, right? So, but isn't it anti-love if we are judging? No, not at all. Absolutely not at all. All right, so if you come and you absolutely judge me, which I welcome, I say, please, Norma, judge me. Tell me what it is that I'm doing wrong. Right? It's not my language, but let's just use this language here, which I'm happy to say quite genuinely, right? Now, when you come and you judge me and you tell me, right, I'm going to say when it's appropriate right now, right? So now I'm asking you to judge me. First of all, and now it's appropriate because I've asked you. Secondly, even if I didn't ask you, it's still appropriate because you need to make a moral decision on what I am doing. If I'm doing something that you think is immoral, if you think it's immoral, you're judging. How can you not judge if you wish to be moral, right? So, like I explained, judge here is a term that's used too broadly. It's not fine enough. Yeah. And it's not anti-love because I'm asking you to judge me. And if you tell me, hey, Syl, you know, you do this, you do that. And I said, wow, I never realized I was doing that. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll give you a big hug. How is that not love? You're telling me what I really want to know, need to know. And you are helping me raise and enhance my awareness. It's fantastic. Now, not everybody's asking for that. They want to learn their own lessons on their own things. So, hey, if they don't ask, then you leave them alone. See? Now, when we judge, it's not the judging that's the issue. Sometimes it's the sharing of our opinions that's the problem. When we say judging, what really it means is don't share your opinions. But we have to judge internally. We have to. Otherwise, like I said, we'll have no morals. We'll have no ethics. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Joseph Ross says, when someone judges you, it can still often give you important information about yourself, things you need to know. Exactly. Exactly. Joseph is echoing what I just said. A nice repeat back, right? In Way of Impeccability, that would be a repeat back. When you say things that's been said, but you say it in your own words, you're repeating it back, but in your own words, right? And it's very powerful to do this. Very, very, very powerful. Incredibly powerful, because when you put things in your own words, you make it your own. And that's absolutely essential. So yes, you know, judging is something that's critical in the world. It's like everything else. There's appropriate judging and inappropriate judging. It all depends on context, depends on motivation, and depends on whether you were requested, asked, whatever. Now, again, you know, sometimes somebody may be in a complete oblivion bubble, and you come and say, hey, you know, by the way, did you realize that, you know, the things that you just said are really causing trouble, and are going to cause not just trouble for other people, but for you? Oh, no, I had no idea. I had no idea that was an offensive term. I'm sorry. Yeah. Now they are happy. They didn't ask for you to come and share this information, but you pointed out that they're doing something inappropriate. At root, that is judging. See? But when we typically hear this, don't judge, it's when people are being inappropriately moralistic and they are taking their values and trying to force it onto you. The forcing is the part that's the problem. You can have your own values, but keep them to yourself. Don't be forcing it onto me. Yeah, that's the problem. See, when they're trying to make out like I'm being bad somehow because I'm not living like them. That's just inappropriateness. For me, I don't care two hoots about this. And the only people who care about being judged are those who are insecure about themselves. If you develop even a small measure of independence of being, and independence of being, the power term with the hyphens, independence and being capitalized, right? It's in our dictionary of power. Independence of being is what we're after. It's part of the goal of way of impeccability, living in attunement, having independence of being, etc. When you have independence of being, you don't care if people judge you. That's their problem. Strategically, yes, you may be in a situation, right? I'm living in a very conservative, small community, and if everybody's judging me and seeing it as a negative, I may end up being ostracized or getting into trouble in some way. Yeah. So sometimes you do have to pay attention, but not personally. I don't care what you think about me. That's your problem, not mine. Right? So it's very powerful, this. And again, it's the nuance of discernment. Whenever we hear terms like this, we need to look at them very carefully, because judge here is a very broad term that it's become popular. Why? Because BMNs, people who are narcissists and manipulators and BSs, they are using this to leverage you, to leverage your goodness, to subvert your goodness. Let's be very clear what they're doing. They're subverting your goodness to say, oh, you're doing a bad thing, by pointing out that I'm full of nonsense. Well, you are full of nonsense. There's no doubt about it. You're really, really full of nonsense. Yeah. Now you want to come and reverse it and put it back and say, no, I'm the bad one. No, thank you. That's not going to work. Don't try and make me feel bad and make me feel ashamed, make me feel guilty, leverage my goodness against me. No, I'm sharing what everybody's thinking, that you're really full of it. Your narcissism is off the charts. You're abusive, you're mean, you're rude, you're ugly. Right? No, sorry, no. I'm not going to fall for that trick, right? So let's not fall for the narcissist tricks, right? Because this is how they ended up causing too much trouble in the world. And if we look at our history, we have been completely governed and ruled and manipulated and abused by BMNs, right? I mean, all of feudal culture is exactly that. That's exactly what feudal culture is: the absolute abuse and subversion and manipulation of goodness by BMNs. Yeah. Joseph Ross further goes, I've asked people who threaten to tell me hang on, sorry, it jumped. I've asked people who threaten to tell me their opinion of me or something I've done. Tell me then, but they really do. Exactly. When you ask for this, then they're like, oh, well, now the point of the intent behind this judging of you was to put you down, right? And push themselves up higher by comparison. Hierarchy nonsense, yeah? And domination nonsense. That's the motivation in the superiority paradigm. Sadly, what we grow up, we don't even realize it sometimes that we have this, right? So their intent is to do this, to push themselves higher by pushing you lower. But when you ask for it, now it doesn't have that effect. Now they're doing something to benefit you, which pushes you higher. So of course they let it go alone. It doesn't work. It collapses their intent, collapses their system, collapses their motivation. Getting others' perception of you is often another example of the smallness you talk about. Exactly, Joseph. Exactly. The more perspectives you get can be very possible. Precisely. Because especially on ourselves, we are limited to very few perspectives on ourselves internally, right? And when it comes to anything, if you want to understand something, especially something that's complex, if you look at it from one angle only, you're not going to get it. I mean, the famous story of the blind man and the elephant, right? The one holding the trunk says, well, I've got the rope, and the one holding the leg says, I've got the column, a pillar, and the one says the tail, I've got a paintbrush or whatever, right? They all, because they have limited perspective, they cannot understand the whole. But should they have put all their perspectives together, those three blind men, if they'd been three wise blind men, they would have collaborated and said, you know, I got this perspective. I know it's not the whole because, there was more there. I couldn't see it all, right? What did you get? Okay, I get it now, right? You see, and then they can put it together. Our brain has an incredible ability to construct the whole from the sum of the parts. You don't have to have all of the views. You only have to have enough. It's very important to understand. The example I always use is understanding the floor plan of a house by looking through the windows, right? You don't go inside the house, but you don't see all of it, but you can construct it in your brain through logical connectivity, through inference, through implication, right? And you can construct it and do so very accurately. If you see through enough windows, you don't have to see through all of them, you can construct it. Likewise, when you get multiple perspectives on yourself, you start to get to be able to construct a view of yourself. And because the self is so incredibly complex and always changing, we constantly need more and more perspectives. It is a most valuable thing that you can give someone is your perspective on them, how you see them, because they have no idea. We imagine how people see us. How often do we actually hear how they see us? Very seldom. So you might overhear people talking about you to somebody else. And then you're going to hear, oh, wow, I didn't realize they think of me like that, right? And be positive or negative. So having perspectives on ourselves, one of the most precious, precious things we can get. Yeah, very precious, because it helps us to build that greater view of ourselves that is pretty much almost impossible to get by yourself. Yeah, very, very difficult. Yeah, so very cool, Joseph. Very cool, very cool, very cool. And that's precisely what Moreness is about. The sharing of extra, sharing of perspectives. Because when we share, look at why Beena and I are here. Right, Beena, aren't we here to share?
Like what else? Yes.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And what is sharing? But the sharing of perspectives. The more perspectives we share, the more we enable ourselves and everyone else to be able to put together a picture of the whole. Moreness is exactly a name for that greater whole that is magical, wonderful, extra, valuable, useful, special, fantastic, awesome, brilliant, exciting, thrilling, stupendous, glorious, sublime, profound. I can go on. Don't get me started on superlatives. I can be quite superlative when it comes to superlatives. But my point is, Moreness is about all of that. Yes? And each time you come at it from these different angles, which is what our sharing is. We're not trying to teach anybody, no interest. I share. If you find it valuable, if it's a perspective that adds to your view of things, oh, I never thought to look at it that way. Oh, wow, that's a cool way to look at it. Ah, that adds to my understanding. Yeah. See, all valuable, 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 valuable. Everything that I share, Beena shares, we share perspectives. Not a teaching, not an opinion. It's never definitive. We'll always hear us say, for me, or as I see it. We always qualify our opinions like that. Always. We never say it like it is. Like a lot of people, they state their opinions as fact. That's hierarchy nonsense. It may be a fact to me, doesn't make it a fact to you. Yeah. So I can't state it as an absolute fact. And if you do that just as a communicator, as a writer, by the way, if you state opinions as fact, you're going to get people argue with you all the time just because they don't like absolutes, like me. Right. In an interesting way, the power medicines also give you another perspective on yourself. Absolutely, Joseph. It is one of their most profound values. You're getting this incredible view of yourself. I mean, we see this with Carlos and Mescalito. You get this incredible view of yourself, yes. And also with Datura, with the power plant, Simpson weed, devil's weed, right, as Don Juan calls it. It's giving Carlos a view, like Don Juan said, you know, this can make you greedy for power, can make you lustful, etc. And that's a view. When you feel that way, wow, I like this. That's a view on yourself. When you feel something that you like or dislike, that's a view on yourself. Yes, the power plants are very powerful for giving a view on oneself. Yes. Very, very powerful. Magical. Let me see. Because Imos's comments aren't showing in the restream chat there. So Lubna Siddiqui has joined us, and Imosa says it makes sense. Wonderful. Yeah, this is very cool. This is to me why we do this also, right, Beena? This exact discussion right now. So please, Beena, share more. Please, Beena, share more.
Yes. About this, what you were saying about like the sharing, what we are doing is, and even if sometimes okay, of course, Syl is not into this thing, but sometimes when I say something, it comes with so much passion, and sometimes I feel that okay, I was saying in a bit definite way, which is for me, please pardon my words sometimes, but okay, because I just love to discuss these things. I am here to learn, of course. I'm learning from everyone, but also that I'm here to share my understanding and my experiences. It is not, it has nothing to do with like, okay, I'm here to tell you that you have to do all sorts of this thing and that thing. No, I'm just here to share my things. And I also always share that, okay, sharing is a two-way business. We have to always keep it in mind that sharing is not just a one-way thing. Oh, I need to share. If I'm sharing, someone else is doing the 50% of it by receiving it. So we all are equal into this. That's why sharing is a magical business, because teaching is a one-way thing. Of course, yes, someone is just giving you and you are just at the receiving end and that's it. It's a one-way thing. But still always emphasize on that it has to be sharing, not the telling. And also that, okay,
Exactly.
I don't know, okay, I was not able, at least in the past, I was not able to explain what I feel about it. Telling is something I can tell you about anything which I don't have, which I don't own, which is not in my possession, which is not
No.
right there. I can tell you about anything, like, and I can tell you about Eiffel
Wow.
Tower, that, okay, yes, this is there. But I cannot share which I don't have. I
Hmm.
can only share when I really, truly own it. That's this is the difference for me. I can tell you
Yes, Beena.
stories about the forest of Amazon.
Yes.
I can tell you stories
Yes.
about the Rakaposhi mountains, series of mountains we have in Pakistan. But I can only tell you. I can share when it is my own, only. And this is the real qualifier for the sharing, and which I really, of course, love. I'm sharing because this is something I did the process. Okay, I'm still in the process again. I'm still in the process, but I get some sort of understanding and I feel a bit satisfied according to my understanding right now that, okay, yes, this is something valuable. This is something meaningful. This is something purposeful, useful, relevant, and pertinent. And then I feel excited about that. Yes, I want to share my happiness, my joy of having this understanding. This is what sharing is for me. Sharing
Yes,
only
Beena.
comes
Yes.
when you own something.
And that really gives us insight. There's a moreness to Beena's sharing here right now on this point about telling and sharing. If we look at, like, for instance, we see this many times in posts on the internet, right? Where people are telling us, if you take what Beena said, telling is about something that you don't own. Oh, it reveals the motivation. They don't really know what they're talking about. They're just taking it from somewhere else and pushing it onto you as if it's coming from them, kind of. Or at least, even if it's like a quote or whatever. But they're telling, usually it's that inference that this is mine in some way. I subscribe to this maybe, or I live this way. But it's not a true sharing because they don't own it. It's not theirs. Yeah. 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 I love you too, Norma. Thank you very much. That's absolute pleasure, Norma. Absolute pleasure. You are a joy, Norma. You are really a joy. Almost magical joy. Wow. This is too cool. Otessa, I hope you come and join us. I don't know if you're here yet or not. I hope so. I hope so. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Um, just saw a message there, but I don't know if you're here and joining us. So that'd be cool. Yeah. By the way, Joseph, I'm sure you know, but just to those seeing Joseph's comment there, maybe in South Africa, I grew up bilingual. Like I grew up like in Canada, like in French Canada, right? So French Canadians are the minority, but I grew up in the non-French Canada part, right? So I grew up speaking French in English Canada. Well, it was the reverse. I grew up speaking English in Afrikaans, South Africa, in the country, right, where I grew up. Well, that was the predominant language, right? I was a minority, and I was discriminated against for being a minority, by the way. Anyway, so there, though, in the overall language, ja is Afrikaans for yes. But even English speaking people would typically say ja. Like like, I don't know, maybe in French Canada, if you're English speaking, you'd say we instead of yes. I don't know. I don't know if that's the thing over there, but just to give an example. So it's become throughout the country, doesn't matter where you are, most people would say yeah instead of yes. I don't know, just easier to say yeah than yes, I guess, but a little bit more casual. So yeah, Dutch, German, same thing. Yeah means yes. Yeah. Does the are you seeing yeah in the captions in the translation? Is that where you got it from? All right, let's continue our reading, right, Beena?
And we'll see that how much time.
Yeah, we got 15 minutes. We'll do some. Yeah, we can go a little longer today. We
Okay.
have no pressure today, so no matter. Yes, says Joseph. Very funny, Joseph. Very funny. Brilliant. Most appropriate. Most appropriate. All right. Screen share. Screen share of the book. So I was saying, by the way, this copy of the book behind me, my copy didn't quite look that bad because I'm very precious when it comes to books and I take care of them very well. All right, I might underline and I had a lot of notes inside mine and all in the margins, a lot of stuff going on in there. But I never, my books never got to be this beaten up. Although that particular book and its friends, the series, I did cut them halfway around the world, and they went through many adventures along with me in my backpack until they were gifted to somebody in a very profound, long story, very magical story. It's a very long story of attunement and unusualness and a very marvelous story. That's part of my adventures. Right. His name was Brian Copeland, by the way. I still remember his name. I gave him all the books I had. Yeah. When he picked us up hitchhiking. We never hitchhiked to get a lift. We hitchhiked to be picked up by the right person. Was our intent. Right? Very important intent. Just while we're about it here, doing things again like the judging, doing things a little differently, coming at things from a different angle. So we always stood waiting for the right person to pick us up. So we were trying to think where we were. Yuma, way South Arizona. We just come all the way across Texas. Another long story. I got magical, marvelous, long stories. Nonetheless, here we're standing on the side of the road, waiting for the right person to pick us up. So this guy drives by. He drives by us, and the road had a frontage road to it. And he turns off, and he stops on the. He turns and comes back a little ways and stops. Well, at first we don't pay much attention. Maybe he's going somewhere over there, but he doesn't get out of the car. There's nothing else around us, so obviously we aware that he's just sitting there and paying it, watching us. Obviously, in English, yeah, exactly, right. So he watches us, and he sits there for I don't know, half an hour maybe, or could even have been longer, a long time. In other words, eventually he drives back. He turns the car around again and goes back to the little crossway because it was like a dip between the highway and the frontage road. Where he crosses over the dip again and comes back and offers us a lift, right? And comes back. And he said he was just watching us. He was just quite fascinated by us. Something made him stop and he couldn't understand what. Now, of course, it was attunement. I never used that word then, that attunement. I understood what it was, but I didn't use the word specifically. And I explained to him the moreness of what's involved, and he was absolutely fascinated. He was absolutely fascinated by the quest that we were on and the moreness that I shared. And I explained to him what we're about. We're on this quest, everything. The quest was to connect to moreness people. Well, I'm still on that quest. I've succeeded in one person in that way. It shares this passion for learning and growth and depth and marvelousness. But at that time, I didn't know anybody. So anybody like Don Juan, similar, doesn't have to be Don Juan himself, but of that nature. And he was completely entranced by this. He'd never heard of Carlos. Despite him being Hopi. Anyway, So we give him this, and I said, really, you should come with us, or we come with you. But he didn't have the understanding that here was an opportunity for him to completely go in a direction that he never thought before. It's very difficult for people to shift gears in life profoundly like that when it comes. Anyway, I gave him the book, and he said, well, you got to go visit my auntie. Lolly Yestawa, and he wrote it on a piece of paper. Lolly Yestawa, Pine Top, Arizona. Did this lead to a wonderful adventure? Right? I mean, we were in Tucson. He dropped us off. That's where he was going, from Yuma to Tucson. Now, if you know Arizona, Pine Top is a place that's near Sholo, if you look on the map. Anyway, so we went all the way up there, and we met up with this ranger, Alan, and he took us all around, and we had wonderful, marvelous adventures with him and things he told us and shared. But actually, Pine Top was on the Hopi reservation on First Mesa. It was an old name for one side of it. Right? Why he used that name when we finally got to his auntie, Lolly said, what on earth was Brian thinking? Nobody calls it Pine Top anymore. Where did he even get this from? She was quite mystified. It was quite a mystery. But we had gone on this incredible magical adventure in all around, and we ended up down in Peridot, where we met Leroy. Long story with Leroy, the guy whose reed bush we slept in. Fantastic adventures, all because of this. And when we got there to find, I must also finish a little bit of the story because it's a fun part. So we get to Pine Top, and somebody gives us a lift, and they drop us off there. We don't know exactly which house it is, but anyway, more or less, the person said, this is Lolly's house. Okay, they drop us. We don't know. And off they go, and they just leave us there. And there's nobody. Right? So now this is a neighborhood, the houses on this mesa, and you're overlooking right out into the over the desert, the semi-desert, right? And it's wonderful view and everything, but there's nobody there. Well, all the houses, every single house, you can clearly see, not the car inside, not the person inside. It's all abandoned. Because you can feel when people are around, and when there's nobody there. The air is a different quality, right? Absolutely nobody around, right? Completely abandoned. It's like, wow, this is pretty wild, Well, what can we do but wait? Because it's too far to really walk anywhere. And the person said, this is where Lolly is that we're looking for, that Brian sent us to. And we wait and we wait and we wait. And come mid-afternoon, it was clear sky. It's Arizona, right? It's up there in northern Arizona. There's not much by way of clouds up there. So not a cloud in the sky. But all of a sudden, it starts raining. It's like, wow. Okay. Anyway, just very quickly came little rain. Okay. And then we get a bit wet, but well, what can we do? We're waiting. So, all right. We got our backpacks with us, and that's it, right? We're on our quest. We are completely living in attunement. But now it's getting late afternoon already. I mean, it's starting to get towards dusk. And, well, now things are starting to change a little bit, with the coming of nightfall, because you got a place to sleep, whatever. I don't want to be, anyway. So finally, Lolly and nieces and nephews and all of that all come back, right? Oh, and we explain what's going on. Oh, yeah, well, we were at the rain dance. Well, that explains the rain. Okay. And so this was part of a big festival. So we said, well, we're going to go over to, I think it was Lolly's grandmother. No, Lolly wasn't young anymore, probably in her 40s or 50s somewhere. So her grandmother was quite ancient, right? It was part of a big festival. So, well, okay, well, we don't quite know what to do with you. Well, you just have to come with us. Okay, so we get in the van and everybody's there. We don't know anybody from anywhere. And we go all the way around the mesa to another part of First Mesa, which is First Mesa is like, I don't know, I guess it's like a town or a small city, like kind of on the Hopi reservation, right? Like sort of the main place there. Anyway, so we go all the way around to the grandma's house. It's a very long adobe style, very old house that she's living in, right? Been around obviously for a long time. And very basic. It's just one long house, essentially. And it wasn't really a division in the house, but sort of, kind of. Anyway, and we go in and there's a very long table. And this is where they were headed to this festival. And they just invite us to join them. Oh, it's actually emotional just to even think of this. We don't know these people from anywhere. They don't know us from anywhere. Just invite us to join this very private gathering of the family, right? And there we sit at the table. My friend who was with me, she was just, tears ran down her face, just silently throughout the whole dinner. And it took much for me to not also have that emotion. I feel it now even more than then, perhaps, but it was just incredibly profound. Just to be accepted and welcomed in and to partake in something like that with utter, complete, and total strangers, and something so private. It's too beautiful. Anyway, we ended up staying for a while with one of Lolly's daughters, hairdresser. There on First Mesa, just down the bottom. That's too magical, really powerful. So my point is, don't expect the world to work the way you think it does. That was a very profound example of the world not working the way we think it does, and following attunement. Attunement. Brian gave us this address, this peculiar address, which led us on this incredible adventure. Before we got there, I skipped a lot of stuff in between. I don't know why that story felt appropriate to say. Just the profoundness of the world. I guess it's about hello world, and that appreciation of the magic in the moreness. Things like this, right? It's too wonderful. It's too wonderful. I have no idea what they think of us. It'd be very interesting to know. But it never got that far. But we stayed a while, and we said what we were about, and then we went on another quest, and more magical adventures led from that, which I mentioned before, like we ended up at the Sundance and things like that. All right. Anyway, let's read some, Beena. Let's read some. Otherwise, we'll have no reading today, all stories. But this was a very profound experience, and just super incredible. Simple things, and they stay with me. They stay with me. Yeah. And Imilsa says, I'm so happy to have connected at least for a little while. I love you all. Next time I will stay longer. Too beautiful, Imilsa. I look forward to it. Every day this time, Imilsa, every day. I'll send you an invite next time as well. All right. Please, Beena. Oh, I need to screen share again. I was going to say, please, Beena, will you read from us? Will you read for us? Let me just screen share again. There we go. Day before Carlos's birthday, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thursday, 24th December 1964. Today I narrated the whole experience to Don Juan. As usual, he listened without interrupting me. At the end, we had the following dialogue. He did something very wrong. I know it. It was a very stupid error, an accident. There are no accidents when you deal with the devil's weed. I told you she would test you all the way, as I see it. Either you are very strong or the weed really likes you. The center of the forehead is only for the great brewers who know how to handle her power.
And look how he emphasizes power.
Yes.
Right? It's in italics there. Who know how to handle her power. It's very unusual italicization. Carlos isn't quite as fond of italicization as I am. Quickly before you continue, Joseph has commented on my story. In native communities, people watch strangers and see how they act. They know that white people like to talk, but they notice how you act more than what you say. Well, that's very good, Joseph, because we didn't say much. We just said, Brian sent us here. That's kind of all we said. And that was it. Yeah. And in that whole dinner, didn't say a word. Basically, you act in a respectful way. Yes, correct. We are incredibly respectful. Yes, absolutely. For me, respect is just due respect is absolutely innate in my being. I'm coming to your house. I'm coming to your place. That respect just emanates from you because it's just a part of you. I'm not trying to be respectful. It just is, right? So it's just innate. It's not. I'm not making an action to be respectful. It's just there. How can I not be? It's like if you understand how things are in the world, it's simply innate. So yes, they see that in us, and they saw also not only the respect but our earnestness, and earnestness is very powerful. We were there because this was. We're on a quest. We are earnest about our quest. We're doing what is absolutely right and appropriate according to our quest. As crazy it may seem to anybody else, it's still right for us. And people will help you when you're on an earnest quest. They will assist you. We had many instances of this. Yeah, it's very powerful. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the respect was completely innate, which is why that happened. If we didn't have that, so well, I don't know why I sent you here. Sorry, see you. Bye. We gotta go. Right? She had every opportunity, and I wouldn't have taken that any wrong or rude. Right? Their invitation was a connectivity to that respect, to that moreness, to that earnestness. It's not something that you can do deliberately, and you just have to. We didn't even think that we didn't expect that at all. It's just a magical bonus. I mean, we got a nice meal out of it, although it wasn't an intent. We weren't particularly hungry. I think we probably had a little bit of food in our backpacks or something, but we had no money. We had no nothing. We were completely on a quest at the complete and utter mercy of the universe, and and, and we lived like that for quite a while. It's quite a magical thing when you're on a quest. You get taken care of in peculiar ways that you never expect. We never, ever, ever, ever expected a handout of any kind from anybody. We had no idea what was going to happen the next day. Complete and utter capital T trust. Capital T trust is an incredible thing. It's really profound. If I look back at it now, it's like, oh my God, I was so crazy. But, it's very powerful. Very powerful. In other words, the world does not work the way we think it does. If we have the courage to act on our convictions, the most incredible magic will happen. But you have to have that courage. You have to take that first step in the dark, or sometimes the second step. But at some point, the third or the fourth step, or the second step, whichever step, it turns the light on, right? It's an old saying of mine that from when I was a kid. And it's very important to be aware that sometimes you have to take that first step in the dark. Yeah? All right, please continue, Beena. Please continue. Powerful stuff. Yes, yes. This is a way of impeccability. It's all about that respect, right? It's a capital R respect. Yeah. Oh, I lost my place here now. I was trying to scroll it just a little, but it didn't let me do that. That capital R respect, it is a big, 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 big deal. Big, 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 big deal. And that due respect, of course, it's one of the key definitions, our definition of um, of
Impeccability, way of impeccability.
of impeccability. Yeah, sorry, I was looking for where we were, and I lost. There we go. There we go. All right, please go ahead, Beena.
Okay. What usually happens when a man rubs his forehead with the paste on one? If the man is not a great groover, he will never come back from the journey. Have you ever rubbed the paste on your forehead on one? Never. My benefactor told me very few people return from such a journey. A man could be gone for months and would have to be tended by others. My benefactor said the lizards could take a man to the end of the world and show him the most marvelous secrets upon request. Do you know anybody who has ever taken that journey? Yes, my benefactor. But he never taught me how to return. Is it so very difficult to return, Donwall? Yes. That is why your act is truly astonishing to me. You had no steps to follow, and we must follow certain steps because it's the steps where man finds strength. Without them, we are nothing. Oh, because it is in the steps where man finds strength. Without them, we are nothing. We remained silent for hours. We seemed to be immersed in very deep deliberation.
Yeah, I'm going to put that in the quote file. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Joseph says, judging in different ways. Your story is a good example of that. They didn't immediately judge you in a way, but to judge you over time, as in only natural and appropriate, as a community always looks to protect itself and its members. Correct. There's not overt judging. There's not judging according to false criteria. There's not judging according to superficial criteria. There's judging by action. You're going to show yourself, right? I'm not going to assume who you are. So I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, which is a profound act of generosity, of kindness, of love, of goodness, of moreness, right? To give you the opportunity to, of course, either be full of nonsense or not. Yeah. But to be evaluated rather than judged, to be discerned based on your actions. Absolutely. Absolutely. And obviously our actions were in some way good, because like I said, you know, Lolly spoke to her daughter and organized that we stayed there for a while. Just, you know, it's fantastic. So yeah, you know, again, impeccability serves us in profound ways, because impeccability is about rightness of being, but it's a rightness of being according to you, your own conscience. Yes, of course, you're going to also assess relative to the world at large, because, you know, if I feel murder is right for me and I go and be a murderer, I can be an impeccable villain. Yes, and that may be so, but we don't want to be villains. So you're in a bubble then, right? Magua comes to mind from it was Daniel Day-Lewis and Madeline Stowe. I'm trying to remember the movie now, set in frontier times. And the bad guy's name was Magua. But Magua was quite an impeccable villain, a very good example of an impeccable villain. You can be. Yeah. So Beena says, Joseph says, sorry, I'd be interested in Beena's perspective from a Muslim point of view, how they treat strangers. This is a great question. Yes.
How they treat
Yeah.
strangers?
Well, because, but before you answer,
Yes.
Beena's point of view and a Muslim point of view are not necessarily the same.
Yes.
Just make this
Yes.
very clear. Beena
Yes.
is a practicing Muslim. However, Beena also makes sure that what she practices is her own.
Yes.
It's very important.
Yes. Yes.
Beena is very deep. Beena is an excellent Muslim scholar, in my opinion. It's very fantastic. But I want to make this very clear that Beena is going to share from a Muslim perspective. It may or may not coincide with her personal perspective, right? So let's just make that. So let's Last of the Mohicans, Christopher Abbott. Thank you very much. Yes, awesome, awesome, awesome. That was the movie. So if you want to see a movie that has an impeccable villain in it, look at Magua. He was the bad guy, but his reasoning, his logic was quite sensible. It was quite sound. And according to his worldview, his logic, he was doing the right thing. And I can make a good case that he was quite right, because he was essentially saying the white man is like an infection. It's a cancer. It's going to cause trouble for us. And he was quite right. So he was right to oppose them. And he did. He wasn't successful ultimately, you know, but still, he was right. So he was an impeccable villain. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Christopher Abbott. Please. All right. So Beena's perspective on how Muslims treat strangers.
Okay. So as per my understanding and as so far what I have observed there, and also what I have read, in Muslim community, okay, the concept of community is very strong. So that any stranger who is coming, first, of course, they are obliged to treat them, like greet them with first the peace, like the peace be upon you. This is the first thing they say that. Whoever encounter, they know them or not. So it is actually to set the tone of interaction. First, when you are saying that, of course, some culture, more Arabic cultures, and of course other culture, they also include that shaking hands. Okay, this is not actually advised or obligation from their religion, but it is something cultural. But yes, greeting them with nice words like, okay, peace be upon you. This is something, an obligation, religious obligation there.
Right.
Okay, if someone comes to your house, very clearly indicated in many hadith book, which I have read also, that
What does
they are
hadith mean?
guests.
That's for those who don't know.
Hadith is okay, they are the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon
Okay.
him. These are the saying and quoted by his allies and of course his friends, and they are all quoted and with the references.
Yeah.
So and of course they qualify they need to be qualified that okay, the reference are all valid and everything. So they are very
And these aren't
carefully.
necessarily in the Quran. The hadith is.
No. Hadith is completely just from the saying of Prophet Muhammad.
All right.
Quran is
Right.
not.
There you
Okay.
go.
According to Muslim understanding, Quran is not the words of Prophet Muhammad. He was just a medium. Okay. So this is the Muslim understanding, the Islamic understanding. But for the strangers, if a person is coming, there are different conditions. If a person is coming and they just knock your door and say that, okay, yes, I feel hungry or I'm in need, I need something, I need to water, or I need a place to live, they are obliged to provide him whatever they can. First thing, if they need a shelter, they need to do something about it. Food, water, or anything, whatever they. For 3 days, there is an obligation for Muslims to take care of a guest. For 3 days. After 3 days, person is not going to be considered as a guest. So now if they want to continue, they need to be part of the family or otherwise they have to go. Sorry. So this is something very clear. But also there is a qualifier. Even for a family members, if they are coming, like, okay, my brother is coming to visit me, or if my parents are coming and I'm going to visit them, or cousins or whatever, you have to knock at the door 3 times. Even if they are inside and they are not responding, not opening a door, you have to go back without having any resentment or objection. You cannot make any objection. It's a very clear distinction there. That okay, if you are going somewhere, you knock at the door, and if they are not responding after 3 knocks, sorry, you have to go back. You cannot have any objection, no resentments, no negativity, no, because this is their right. But if you are, of course, a guest, and if they open the door, you can ask for. And this is something you can see, search on YouTube, you will see that, okay, how different culture, people from different culture, just testing Arabs and Muslims and knocking their doors and say, okay, yes, I'm here. Okay. And they say, okay, come and have food. That's it. Because they are obliged to. This is something that is part of the religion, their religion. So this is the way of treating strangers. Also, the mosque in Muslim culture is also provide shelter and food for the strangers or visitors who are coming and having no one here. This is part of it. Also, there is a concept from the government, even like in any Islamic country, they are obliged to. They are doing it or not, I don't know, but they are obliged to do that, taking care of the shelters, free shelters and free food for strangers and visitors and travelers by the government, set up by or organized by or arranged by the Baitul Mal concept. The Baitul Mal is the financial setup for I don't know the exact term for that, where people give their charity and also the zakat money, and from that money, the government is what is the word? They have to do something like it is. Still, are you there? I don't know. You guys are hearing me or not? I have no idea. Okay. Anyway, I will continue. So this is the idea of this is the
Obliged.
yes.
Beena, obliged. That's the word you're looking for. Yes. Sorry, I have to go to
the
back.
Government. Okay, sorry, I was confused.
I had to leave the microphone here. So.
Oh, okay.
They're
So the
obliged,
government
yeah.
is also obliged to set up free shelter and free food arrangements for the strangers and travelers coming to the city. And this is even, you can see in Karachi, and of course in the poor countries like Pakistan, you will find this in every city. And even in the small villages, you will see that the mosque is a place where anyone can go and ask for food and shelter. This is the setup.
Wow.
Again, this is the setup suggested by their religion. how they are doing it and how the culture
It's a
is, of
different
course,
story,
influencing
right?
it, it's a different story. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is something, and mostly Muslims are famous for their hospitality all over the world. This is a common perception, and for that you can search on YouTube and just search for people just
Yeah.
doing social experiments and seeing that, and it can tell you a lot about this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're very
overall,
welcoming to
Muslims are
strangers
very,
and very
oh
they
yes,
treat
very
strangers
generous,
very well, in other words.
especially when
Yeah.
it comes to, oh, very well, and they are very open for that. So it is like, it is very common in my culture also, that if a delivery guy is coming and this is the time for the breakfast, like, okay, breaking their fast in Ramadan, to invite him that, okay, yes, okay, come and have some food. This is something, it's very common. Just have
Yeah.
food together. That's it.
Yeah.
So it is a very generous
And
culture
I
they
can
have.
attest to this. I've been on Zoom with Beena, and something happened, and and that the person was invited, and given something, and yeah. So this
Yes,
has
no, it's
happened
it's a common
while we've
thing.
been on Zoom.
It is
Yeah.
common. So and also that Arab culture again, Joseph, just to make it a very clear clarification here. Islamic culture, Muslim culture, and Arab culture is different.
Yeah.
We assume that, even Muslims assume that what Arab culture is suggesting, this is part of Islamic culture. No, which
No,
is
it's
not.
not.
Sorry,
Right.
Arab culture is completely different thing, and Islamic ideology is completely different thing, because I'm here, I'm not Arab,
Yeah.
and of course, a lot of majority is not Arab, like Malaysia.
Right.
They are
Right.
not Arabs. They are not Indians also. They are not
Correct.
Iranians. So Iranians are also not Arabs. So the Arab culture is
Right.
different, and the Islamic culture, even though Muhammad was Arab, but it's still the culture, the Islamic understanding is completely different.
Yeah. Very important distinction. Very important
Oh yes, we
distinction.
have to be very clear. Muslims are very confused about that. They assume that my
Yeah.
forefathers, okay, they were scholars, but it's still from my mother's side, a lot of misunderstanding and confusion about the Arab culture and the Islamic culture and
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah. That's where
I
discernment
have
is so
it.
potent. We need discernment.
Oh,
We need
yes,
discernment.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I love this. I love this. And when you hear this via Beena now, Joseph, one gets, and Persian exactly, right? One gets a very, very different view, right, of things. And like I say, Beena's personal culture, her family culture, and extended community, that because it's a very definite thing that Beena has a large family and extended family connectivity, and they get together regularly and interact regularly, and this, so that extended community is a very specific, very different thing, even though they're not living in close proximity to each other. They interact,
yes,
I mean, daily, right, in this greater community.
yes.
and
This is
and
also
this
part of religious obligation also, to stay connected with your
Yeah.
relatives and also take care of your neighbors. Neighbors have a lot of rights in Islamic culture, that some people were really scared that maybe at some point Quran will say that you have to give some part of property to your neighbors also, because they have so much rights. Even the very clear statement from Prophet Muhammad, I read that whoever hurt their neighbors deliberately in any way is not among us.
Wow.
The person cannot be
Wow.
a Muslim, cannot call themselves a Muslim, if they are deliberately irritating, annoying, hurting in some way their neighbors. And according to this hadith, a lot of Muslims are not Muslims anymore.
No, you
Sorry.
should have pointed that out to Grumpy Uncle.
Yeah, deliberate. It has to be very, very clear.
Grumpy
Okay.
Uncle is a neighbor that Beena had. He's moved now, fortunately. He used to just, rage and scold and fuss and bother, and everybody could hear him, all the neighbors. He was called Grumpy Uncle by Beena.
Yes, but of course I cannot do anything about it. He was struggling. And so this is something like, okay, the community concept in Islam, in Islamic culture, in your words, is very strong, like the neighbors' rights. Oh my God. Like you cannot do this. You cannot throw or you cannot put your wrappers and plastic bags and the skins of fruits or anything which hints that you have been eating good food and you have neighbors around you, because this might actually just cause stress to the family, like especially that fruits or other good foods. Don't do this because emotionally, okay. And also that you have to ask them, take care of them. So a lot of things about like to build the community. This is something a very strong recommendations from Islamic 22. And relatives are also part of it.
Wow. Joseph says
That's
that
why
same
the
thing.
property system is, yes. Sorry?
Oh, go ahead.
And also that the property distribution of property is also very accurately, precisely explained in Islam. You cannot go like, okay, whatever you want to, because you have to take care of everyone in your family. Of course, your children, and of course your siblings also, and your parents, and your wives. You cannot just go like, okay, whatever I want. No, you cannot do this.
Right.
And according to Islamic law, you cannot say that, okay, I'm not going to give anything to this person. Like, okay, like your children. No, you can't do this. This is their innate right.
Interesting.
So the community system
Joseph
is very
says,
strong.
Beena, a comment here, Joseph, on that point about neighbors, right?
Yes.
And he says, tell that to the Pakistanis that just killed like 60 Punjabi workers. Yeah, that province is seemingly anti-strangers, yet they must surely be Muslim. Here's the thing,
Okay.
Joseph. Well,
Let me.
in it.
I just want to add something.
Oh, okay.
Because there is something. So what is happening in Balochistan, Joseph? Because okay, in Balochistan, this is the mineral rich, really highly rich province we have. We have gas, natural gas there. We have different other minerals, and that's why, of course, a lot of other outsiders are also trying to get control over it, and so many other countries are also involved, which of course doesn't negate what is happening inside. So what is happening there? There is a tribal system there, and my mother belongs to that province. Okay, she is a Baloch Rin. They were Iranian coming and staying there, and so my grandfather was from that heritage, and my mother's forefathers' pictures is still the tribe chief, just holding a sword and having a big turban, that type of people. And I know that, okay, what is happening there? The chiefs of or the tribal people there, the head of tribes, they are trying to keep their control intact still. So whenever they see something happening progressive, they never let it happen. Okay. And we are struggling there. The Pakistan, okay, I must say that, okay, they are struggling there, the armed forces and everyone. The problem with the Punjabis and the Balochis is that the Punjabis are more open. By nature, they are very open. And you can see that in the history also. And they are just into the business. Wherever they see that, okay, the potential, they just go there and they start working. So in Pakistan, in armed forces, in establishment, in every controlling position, Punjabis are in the majority, a big, huge majority. But the Balochis, who were deprived of proper education and, of course, the business opportunities because of lack of infrastructure there, they assume that this is happening because of that, which is not completely wrong. That, okay, they blame Punjabis. So the hate against Punjabis is so strong that they say that if we have a snake and a Punjabi, we would rather kill Punjabi first. This is the type of hatred there, because they say that they are actually just wrapping off all the resources and everything, and which is not entirely wrong. Again, I'm saying that because I do feel really concerned about Balochis, because whole Pakistan, and we are exporting also, we are providing natural gas to other countries like India also. This is all coming from Balochistan, but these people are still struggling for that. They don't have that access to that. And of course, the royalty and other things. So the Punjabis and the Balochi conflict there is happening. They killed them because the tribal concept of the tribal culture of Balochistan is still very primitive. This is just your thought. You cannot even imagine how things are there still. So in their understanding, if you did something, I have a right to kill right there. You don't need to go to the court and go through all the system and everything. They don't believe in that. So these Punjabis were mostly barbers, and they were there. And some people got into something, and they were saying, okay, yeah, so they are ripping our money and all these things. So the Balochi mindset is very different to understand.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
Let me put something this way. Yes. That I grew up in Christian culture. Yes. And I've met, well, I've been around, so I've met, I don't know, tens of thousands of tens and tens of thousands of Christians. However, I have met very, very, very few Christians. Lots of Christians, but very, very few Christians. Most Christians that I know, by an overwhelming majority, do not practice Christianity. They subscribe to Christianity, sort of, more or less, yes, but their actions don't portray their subscription to what they say they are. Yes, I mean, just look at in America, how you've got all the racism, and it's a Christian community in general. How do you get racism? This is completely anti the teachings of Christ. Yeah, compassion, forgiveness, you know, the whole story of the Good Samaritan, all of this, completely anti-Christian. So Christian and Christian, two different things. Now, likewise, being a follower of and a practitioner of the teachings of Muhammad is very different to calling yourself a Muslim. A lot of people say, oh, I'm a Muslim, like I say, oh, I'm a Christian. Well, what does that mean? Do you actually act on it? Do you apply it? No, right? So what Beena was saying earlier, that yes, is what you're supposed to do, but doesn't mean that they actually do it. So when we see this in other places, we're like in this now, right? This killing, yeah? Exactly. Mahatma Gandhi said, I like your Christ very much. Your Christians, not so much. Precisely. Yeah. To me, I love Jesus. He's wonderful. But Christianity and in general, how it is such a perversion of what Christianity, what Christ taught. It's not the same thing at all. People say, I believe in it, but do they practice it? No. You know, I mean, Christ stood for compassion and moreness, and like I said, fluid reality, and a whole other, it's a lot more to him, right? But no, I mean, it's just a label that people apply to cover them being not so nice, being bad even, right? Well, now I'm a Christian, which I'm supposedly good. And likewise, in the Muslim world, you get the same thing. People call themselves Muslims, not because they practice it, but because it gives them a label to justify what they do. And it's all bogus. It's all nonsense. Likewise, any criminal is a member of the culture that they're in, right? You get a French criminal, a German criminal, Australian, Japanese criminal. They're all criminals. They're not acting as, you say, well, they're Japanese, but are they acting French? No, what they're doing, or Japanese. No, what they're doing is anti-French, anti-Japanese. No, the Japanese culture is not one that promotes criminality, or the French culture, or whatever culture you can think of. No culture promotes criminality, unless it's a criminal culture, like, say, the mafia culture. But I mean, no culture from a nationality point of view. You'd have chaos. You would imply criminality cultures can only exist in conjunction with non-criminal cultures, which they prey off, right? So when we say somebody is doing something, for whatever reason, this Muslim thing, well, it goes back into the at the time when there was, you know, like the Crusaders time. It's that mentality of opposites, what I was talking about. If you are different, right, and you're not doing what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is right and justified and holy and blah, blah, then what you do must be sinful and evil and bad. Right? mentality of opposite. So any other religion was completely said was bad, was wrong, was good. I mean, look, even within Christianity, how the Roman Catholic Church was the only church for the longest while until Luther came along, right, and said, no, you guys are just up to nonsense here, with selling indulgences, you corrupt. And they were. The church, even the last couple of popes, have acknowledged that back in the day, things weren't as good as they're supposed to be, right? This took a long time for the church to acknowledge. It's a very recent thing to acknowledge that there was complete corruption and badness in the church, right? So I'm saying even within the religion, there came to be division, and it's Protestant, Catholic. It's taken a while for them to all get together and live together. And you get this in other religions too. We famously know about Shia and Sunni, but there are other splits and segments. But my point is, when somebody's acting, you have to judge their actions according to the individual, not according to the label that they come from. Just because he's a Pakistani or he's an Australian, he's an Austrian or whatever, doesn't make his actions Austrian. Yeah. And likewise, most Christians, if we look at all the bad stuff that's happening, right, in the Western supposedly Christian world by people who call themselves Christian, they are not Christian in the least. They are quite horrible, right? This topic is off the Don Juan tale, but I think it is instructive to consider sometimes the cultures around Don Juan and Carlos and native culture in general to help your listeners understand better. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's what we do. We really make an effort to provide contextual context, right? To provide that contextual understanding, the contextual awareness. And this is why Don Juan is so brilliant and so fascinating, because Don Juan comes from a very, very unique culture, or at least Don Juan, as we see him, is the product of the culture of his lineage, right? Yes, he was born a Yaqui, but he's not representing Yaquis. He's not sharing. That's why a Yaqui way of knowledge is inaccurate. He's not sharing Yaqui culture. He's sharing his lineage culture, which is something else entirely. So we need to understand this, right? And not lump people into the labels. Just because Don Juan was born a Yaqui doesn't mean that what he's teaching is Yaqui teaching. Carlos makes this fundamental mistake. He put it right on the book. By the way, if you look now at the book, they've removed that subtitle, the publishers. They don't put it on there anymore.
Wow. This is something good. This is something good.
Yeah, in recent editions, because it's so completely wrong, and from Carlos in his arrogant assumption. We have to be very, very careful of generalizing and saying whatever label the person has on them, that their actions are representative of that label. No, this is completely wrong. Like I said, if we judge criminality that way, then we'd say anytime a French criminal does something, we say, wow, that's very anti-French, wow, and that is French. It has nothing to do with being French. He's a criminal, end of story, right? Likewise, those people committing the murders, it's not because they're Muslim or Pakistani or whatever, they're just murderers or whatever, criminals, who knows? I don't know the complexity of the situation.
Right. Of course, and there is no justification for killing, but there is a context. So we have to see things in that context, that what is happening there. So it's a matter of like, okay, identity there. It's a group of people. They are just two group of people. They are doing this, and also that again, I would say that the reason behind that is again a superiority paradigm. Really, really strongly in play there. And that is something, of course, it doesn't belong to any religion, any ethnicity, nothing. Superiority paradigm is just a paradigm, exists on itself, and anyone can be part of it, of course. It's very open in this sense. So this is something we
very
have
important.
That. And then also that, okay, I really love that. Joseph, which is, okay, you provide me this opportunity that I check myself again, I observe myself again. Because when I was in my teenage, I was very much into politics and learning and other things. And I always feel that I have to protect or defend the country or the religion, which was like a passion coming from that. If someone says something, I just go above and beyond, like, okay, yes, I try to explain things to them that because I feel that I'm obliged to defend my country's reputation and
Yeah.
my religion's reputation and all these things, which I am not anymore. I
Good
still
for
love
you,
my
Beena.
country.
Good for
I
you.
still, of course, practice my religion. I do respect, of course, all other religion
Yeah.
also, but I choose to practice my religion in every possible way. But I don't feel any need. So that is something
Yeah.
very very good for me. Today's uh, takeaway that I'm no more in that mindset anymore. This is very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
It's good to like really be there.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that. Okay, yes,
Yeah.
you have your perspective. You could come up with most horrible things, yes. And I would say, yes, okay, just try to look at it in a more observant way. That, okay, yes. And try to understand what is going on.
Right.
I
Right.
am not part of that anymore. I was long
Yeah.
ago, but I'm not part of that anymore, which is again a
Wonderful.
very, very profound
Wonderful.
gift of way of impeccability and Moreness culture.
And we have to judge things on their own merits. We have to be discerning, in other words. And for me,
Yes.
this point of discernment, particularly to know the other side of the story and to know the third party side and the fourth party, to
Oh,
know all
yes.
sides, is just so
Yes.
incredible. You know, when I grew up, I heard stories like about terrorists, yes, and attacking the superior force, right? And in various situations where there was and the people telling the stories like, how stupid are these people? They just keep on attacking and they've got no chance. I mean, you know, it's like they don't have the means to do it. Their attacks don't do much damage, and they're just going to get wiped out and obliterated. Like, why do they keep doing this? And they were always befuddled at the stupidity. Now go inside the mind of that terrorist attacker. They are living in a situation that is absolutely terrible. They are desperate. They don't know what else to do. So they do this attack because it's better than doing nothing and just accepting the status quo. So they do something that you see as evil, but you don't see what's being perpetrated on them. You know, if we kill one person every day for 10 years, that's just statistics. But you know, how many people is that? Let's just say 10,000. Right? Kill them all in one day, and it's an atrocity.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you can kill more people if it happens over time and slowly, but kill them all at once, and it's a big hullabaloo. So we really exactly, Joseph, exactly. So when we pay attention to the other side, we see that sometimes people do stupid things because they're desperate and they have no other outlet. They have no recourse. They're trying to get attention. They're trying to make a point. They're trying to say no, no, no. And they've tried everything else and nothing works. So they get to this point of desperation. When you're doing something that you know is going to result in your own demise, you got to be pretty desperate or pretty crazy, right? But if it's widespread, then it's unlikely to be craziness. Now, you can get subversion, you can get manipulation, and of course, a lot of like suicide bombers, they flat out being manipulated into this, right? That's it, absolutely. But doesn't mean that all of it is such, right? Sometimes there's a great desperation there to really do and say something. And you can look at this at, like, for instance, it's not happening so regularly anymore, but there was a time when young women were self-immolating, setting themselves on fire in protest. You look at their life circumstances, horrible, absolutely horrible. I mean, just slaves in every which way. Right? And they were doing this as a protest. They had no other recourse. Yeah. So when people are doing crazy things, before you say, oh, that's stupid, and just accept it as stupid, say there's usually a good reason why people are doing stupid things. Very helpful to look at this. Yes. Yeah, Gaza is one such example that, don't just assume that what you hear is the reality. Go there, look. When you actually see the reality firsthand, it's quite a different picture. And, like I heard somebody say, and I think somebody may even have asked me, oh, like what side are you on in this? I said, sides? What are you talking about sides? It's just completely out. No, absolutely. This is out of the question. There are no sides in this. Everybody's wrong and everybody's right. There's no sides. I'm on the side of sensibility and sobriety and honesty and goodness and impeccability. Yeah, when you have a conflict, uh, there's always both sides are wrong and both sides are right in some way. The
Yes.
proportions and percentages may vary, but you can't be picking sides in a thing like this. It's absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. It's all wrong, right? It's all wrong. It's all bad. So, I mean, yes, you may go back into the roots of it and you say, ah, well, okay, I understand a bit more. When you actually go into the history of that region, you get quite a different story, right? You understand things quite a bit differently. But that's a political discussion, and again, not for us so much here. Again, the point for us though is be discerning. Look at all sides. Don't assume that what you heard, that you've been pushed, and from your cultural perspective is the only perspective. No, look at it from the other side. And especially when people are doing things that out of desperation, they'll do some horrendous things when they're desperate.
Oh, yes.
Again, the lesson is do not ever be desperate. Do not ever be desperate. Yeah. Joseph says it's like watching a show like Reservation Dogs. A person who comes from that culture gets much more meaning than a person ignorant to the deeper culture. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Always pay attention to the context. Context it's in our dictionaries of power, part of way of impeccability. Context is capitalized because paying attention to context changes everything. We want to pay attention not only to the immediate context, our personal, intimate, inner context, but the context around us, and the intermediate context, and the world context, and the universal context. This is what appropriateness is all about. It is to be appropriate in all contexts. Appropriateness, the philosophy of appropriateness, is to learn to be appropriate in all contexts. Because it's very easy to be appropriate in your inner context, but be inappropriate in your immediate context with those around you. Be inappropriate, right? It can be conflict. That happens very often. People are in their own bubbles, and it extends further. It extends community, culturally, etc., nationally, globally, right? We do lots of things. Yeah. So Christopher Abbott says, I choose the side of mourners. Precisely. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. Thank you. And for me, I choose the side of mourners with a capital M. Yeah. Yes. An environmental context. My home, the Sonoran Desert, Cherokee of Southern Arizona. Cherokees of Southern Arizona. Oh, wonderful, Joseph. Yes. So it's very important to understand this. For me, I live in the universe. And I always struggled with identifying with local. That's just how my mind has always been. Yes, when I started my big reading project, I didn't just read Western, I read as much as I could from all over the world. And it wasn't accessible to me, some parts of the world, but I tried as much as I could. Right? I wanted to understand globally, and I want to understand universally. So yeah, universal context, very, very important to me. And Beena too, right, Beena?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
To understand context is very important. This is why discernment, ADU, is that acronym for awareness, discernment, understanding, which leads to application. But as the pathway to application, it's so important because you can be aware of other cultures, but you have to discern it. You may be aware there's other contexts, but you have to make that effort to discern it. Then you have to come to understanding from your discernment, right? You have to put it all together. You have to come to capital U understanding, and you're only going to have capital U understanding, big picture understanding, when you've looked at all the angles, right? All sides, not just the two, but the third, the fourth. You want to look at all the colors to understand black and white. Yeah. Because then you can understand what black and white is. All the colors together, the absence of color. You need to know about colors to understand what black and white truly is. See? Yeah, all context, multiple perspectives. That's why the two key techniques in Way of Impeccability, thinking things through to the end. To the end. Got to go all the way. Got to get the full picture. And perspective shifting to multiple perspectives, right? The emphasis on multiple to the end. Very, very important. Otherwise, you end up in bubbles. And that's, in my travels, in my studies, I always made an effort to look at the other side, other context. I got into trouble with my father before the divorce, before they left, because I was too friendly to the convicts. Yeah, long story. In the community that we're in, the local prison, you could go and pay the prison a nominal fee and get the convicts, the prisoners, to come and work for you, right? Many countries have this. You pay them a very cheap rate. You get cheap labor, in other words, right? It's part of their, I guess, well, it's not really punishment because they'd rather come and work and be outside than sit in the jail. So, and I interacted with the convicts and I got to know them, and I got in trouble for being friendly to the convicts. But that was my intent, was to understand, to get to know. My father couldn't get this. It couldn't grasp what was going on. Right? So, oh, it's wonderful. We go on tangents all the time. Sorry for so much of a tangent, says Joseph. But that is a problem for native people, is that white people often don't listen to their perspectives. It's not just native people, it's everybody. You know, Joseph, right? In the greaterness of the entirety of what I share, the entire Moreness-Project. Moreness-Project is comprised of a couple of very distinctive parts. They're smaller ones, but the main parts. The most core part of the Moreness-Project is Way-Of-Impeccability. That's the foundation. Then you've got the psychology of the superiority paradigm, which is understanding how the paradigm, how the world works, all about, you know, narcissism and abuse and BS and ugliness and hierarchy and dominance and all of that stuff. Very important to understand it. You can't just have an idealistic perspective without knowing the reality. You're just going to get eaten up, right? And it's why so many idealistic communities implode and they don't survive. You can look over and over and over again. They happen. People have all these wonderful ideals, but then they don't know about the superiority paradigm, and it starts to creep in, and people start competing and look for hierarchy and dominance, and then all the ideals go to pot, yeah, and the thing collapses. It happens time and time and time again. It's really fascinating. Now, when you take the third part is capital H, hearing and helping. And helping is in inverted commas, kind of. It's not actually that, but it's about capital H, hearing, which is about truly hearing others. In that program, right in the beginning, it will tell you, when you are making this effort to hear people, it is the most profound thing for almost everybody. Because, and the key is, we go a little further, we say it's not just to hear them, but make sure they feel heard. It's one thing for me to hear you, it's another thing for you to feel heard. In order for somebody to feel heard, they have to go past. They will say things over and over, and they'll say it twice and 6 times, 100 times. They'll say it from many different ways, and they'll keep repeating. You already got what they're saying. You understood it very clearly, but they need to keep saying it until they feel heard. The whole program is all about all of the different techniques for doing it. A very, very complex, sophisticated program. Lots of detail, making space, and all of the ways that we can do this. But it is absolutely intrinsic to Moreness culture, this hearing others. I mean, you hear, you can see how I respond to what you type. I'm making an effort to hear what you say, capital H, hear. Now, in capital H, hearing, we understand that people don't always mean what they say. Likewise, they don't always say what they mean. That's a bigger problem. We know people don't mean what they say. They're superficial, it's blah, it's BS, whatever. But more problematic is that people don't say what they mean. So we hear their words, but we don't hear their meaning. And then we don't understand them at all. Yeah. And that's the point, because we don't know their context, we don't give them space, they're shy to say it, they're awkward to say it, they're uncomfortable to say it, there's awful truth involved. Many, many reasons why this happens. Furthermore, they may not be fully aware of what it is that they mean or what it is that they are saying, both together, separately, right? So we have to also listen to what's not said. When you develop this skill, boy, does this open up so much, yeah? Not only for ourselves, but with others. I mean, because that program is yes, it is written in a way that it's designed for those who are working with others, therapists, coaches, counselors, teachers, parents, whatever. But at root, it is a self-hearing program. And at greater root, it is about learning to hear the universe. Yeah? All of these techniques you can apply. It's very easy to apply it with someone else. That's the starting point. But when you take it all the way to the end, it's about hearing yourself and hearing the universe. And those may or may not be the same thing. But this is incredibly potent stuff. This ability to hear and to make space for that hearing to come. We are interacting now via text chat, so it's quite difficult. If we were interacting in an environment where you are coming, as a client or a participant, and you had something to say, then the hearing would be applied, and the whole arrangement is very, very different. I mean, don't mistake what I'm doing with Beena, and take it as a typical interaction. For instance, like it would be if we were doing Way of Impeccability. I mean, we could probably go and look up some of our older interactions where they were participants. I'll probably have them on video. Very different mindset coming from us, right? I mean, I still make every effort to hear Beena, but I'm not necessarily in need of applying all of those techniques. So active listening, capital L listening, yes. Active listening, it's very similar, yes, to capital H listening or capital H hearing. I prefer hearing to listening because it's just a technical thing, I guess, on the way the words are. But, when you hear somebody, well, you don't say, oh, I listen to you. No, I say, I hear you. See? You see what I mean? So hearing has a bit of extra power just in the way we use it in our language. That's why I say capital H hearing rather than capital L listening. Yes, technically they're the same things, but capital L listening doesn't really say, I listened to you. It doesn't work, but I can say, I hear you. To say I hear you means I get where you are coming from. I understand you. And of course, we can't just say that. We have to demonstrate this to the other. And that's where repeat backs come from, and takeaways, and sharing what they've said. You repeat back to them. Part of your obligation, as far as I'm concerned, at least if you learn how to be a coach or a therapist from via capital H hearing and helping, you are going to say this is part of your requirement, is to feed back to the other what you've heard by way of checking. So in other words, you will say continually, you'll say, let me make sure I've heard you right. Let me make sure I understand you. This is what I hear you saying. And you repeat back to them in your own words how you understand what they've said. Where now they have the opportunity to say, yeah, that's what I meant. It's not quite what I said, but that's what I meant. Or say, no, that's what I said, but it's not what I meant. Here's what I actually meant, right? So you open that door. And very sophisticated, very, very sophisticated program and techniques for actually hearing others. Very, very, very critically important. And we want to hear cultures. We want to hear individuals within cultures because they are not necessarily representative. For the most part, culture is a bit of a myth. Yes, because it's an aggregate. The individual seldom applies that aggregate in its totality. Typically, in almost all cultures, people pick and choose, and they apply some of the culture, yeah, but not all of it. It's an aggregate. So when we hear that way, for me, I look at people beyond culture because really, at essence, does it matter if you're a Pakistani farmer or a French farmer? When I go and visit your farm, if you're into growing things, right, not livestock farmer, you'll pick up that soil, like I've said before, and run it through your hand like that, right? And get that look on your face. They do it all over the world. It's the most wonderful, brilliant thing. Gardeners will do the same thing, no matter what country, what culture. I go for that core. I want to know who you are really outside the culture. Because you take that farmer and put him in another country, he's going to still be a farmer. He's still going to be growing. So a doctor's still going to doctor regardless of what culture he's in, right? That's the realness of the person. When you get to that, what motivates them, what drives them, what's important to them, that's who people are. Culture is some superficial, is temporary for the most part, right? I mean, I see that commonality, I see the moreness of people no matter where I've been in the world. And I always relate to them in that moreness. Of course, I take their culture into context and into cognizance. I'm not going to be completely ignore it, but I see past, right? Because to me, when you're taking person as a representative of their culture, you're not seeing all of the person. It's a part of them, yes, but not all of them, right? So I try to go a little deeper than that. Yes, some people very strongly identify with their culture, and that's a wonderful thing. And it's very cool. That's their choice, their predilection. But not all do so. Yeah, some people, they go along with the culture simply because, well, I'm in it, and if I go against it, I'm going to kind of cause trouble for myself. But they're not really into the culture at all. They just subscribe to it on the surface. There's that part of it also. So when you learn to discern and you see past the surface, you see all of these things, and you get to relate on a very different level, very different way. Very powerful stuff. Very, very wonderfully powerful stuff. Very cool. Otessa has joined us. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm very thrilled that you've joined us, Otessa, and I'll celebrate here. Otessa is a new friend that I'm very happy to friend.
Yes, yes. Hello,
Very
Tessa.
cool. Yeah, very cool, very cool. So we hope, Otessa, that you're going to come and hang out with us on
Oh,
Zoom
yes.
at some point. That's
Yes.
very important, very wonderful. We are sharing much moreness today, but it's every day, really. This is what we do. This is what we're about. Yes, we are using the reading of this book in the background behind me. It is our baseline, but it's not. We are not looking to necessarily only read the book and its content. It's about the moreness. It's about how the book leads to moreness, and we're sharing that moreness, how it connects to moreness, how we extract moreness, the moreness that it's there in of itself. But look at this conversation. It came in some way out of that reading. And when we understand that, when we have this thread that allows us to go anywhere from it, it's very profound. It's very, very cool. And there's much moreness to it. So I hope you enjoyed our discussion. It's helpful to read up a bit in the comments to see if you missed the earlier part. But yeah, fun stuff, fun stuff. And we're extending ourselves through sharing. That's what we're doing. We're extending ourselves through sharing. Now, it's very difficult if we have been in that habit from a cultural way, just in a societal way, which is non-cultural really, but the societal habit of telling. Yes. And we get many habits that come from the superiority paradigm, like agree and disagree. I see this so often. People join our discussions and they'll by default say, oh, I agree with that. Oh, I disagree with this. That's the only options that they think of to be, as far as they're concerned, those are the appropriate responses that you do in a discussion. They never think to share their understanding. I don't care about agree or disagree at all. I never, part of my language really. I'll say I understand or I don't understand. And when I don't understand, I'll ask questions. And I make an effort to understand, right? I don't even say I don't understand. I just make that effort to understand. That's, to me, where it's at. When you understand, agree and disagree disappear. They become irrelevant, right? I can understand and not necessarily say this is something for me, but I understand that it's something for you. Yeah. But when I say agree, now I bring in or disagree, I bring in approval and disapproval and anti. And when I say I disagree, there's an implication that you're wrong. Nah, nonsense. I might not do what you do. I might not, well, take for instance, I don't wear what Beena wears. Doesn't mean what she wears is wrong. I don't eat what Beena eats. Doesn't mean, well, okay, what she eats sometimes I think is kind of wrong, but that's just me. No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. I have a very particular taste. Some things they taste like poison to me. They taste absolutely like I should not eat them, right? And so to me, it's like my body's telling me the same reaction as if I put soap in my mouth or I put peas in my mouth. I get the same reaction. So how is peas not wrong for me? Anyway, Beena, I think, does eat peas or lentils. Same thing. Beena likes lentils.
Yeah,
so I'm just teasing a little bit here. But my point is that I can't say what you eat is wrong because I don't like it. But that's what we do with agree and disagree mostly, right? When there's agree or disagree, all right, if you really want to say, then, but if I come to understanding, I say, if I think this through, let me understand this right. I go, yeah, but yeah, I can struggle a bit because there seems to be a logical error here. There seems to be a gap, like you're leaping to a conclusion without evidence. Okay, you might say, yeah, you're right. Just from my experience, I didn't follow it, whatever. But see, now we have discussion because it's about understanding. When it comes to agree and disagree, you have defend and protect and attack. Nah, it's superiority paradigm nonsense. I want nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. But the point I was making is that often we fall into those habits and we don't even realize we're in those habits because we've never known anything else like agree and disagree. We've never known any other way of discussing because that's superiority paradigm. Those are only options. Moreness-Culture is about alternative options to those limited defaults of the superiority paradigm. Yeah. So just in this one simple thing, agree, disagree. No, got to understand. How much more powerful. How much more powerful. And sharing, of course, rather than telling. See, telling is the default. In superiority paradigm, you always got to be telling because, this is elevating your importance. It's a default. You don't even realize you're doing it for the most part. I see people do it all the time. They're not intentionally trying to raise their hierarchy. Well, okay, the BMNs are, but they just do it because that's what they know. They don't know any different, right? Share, people share. That's very powerful. All right, Beena, any wonderful comments to wrap things up with, please?
No, today's live was like really amazing because Joseph, of course, the interaction, and Otessa just being here, Emilce being here, so wonderful.
Yes.
Norma being here, this is so wonderful, and I really enjoyed that.
Yes.
See how the moreness actually comes in our discussion, our interaction.
Exactly.
Now we are exploring things which we're not supposed to, like, okay, we were not expecting that, okay, this is where we will go. We're supposed to do the reading, but we have to our reading, but still, this is what the essence is, to interact and to extract value and moreness, and this is what we always try to do that and try to get this. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This was wonderful, and I hope to see you guys
I'll
again.
just say hello to Ahid, who joined us as well on.
Hello, Ahid. Of course,
IG.
it is great, but still, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Before going, please, again, if you are watching us recorded, please do click like and subscribe to this channel, because by doing so, you are training your own online algorithm that what you really want in your life. It is not about me or Syl or Joseph or anyone. It is about what you want in your life, because ultimately your online algorithm is going to affect your life algorithm, which is so important for all of us. So please do pay attention to that, what you want in your news feeds, what you want as a notification. And if you don't want any nonsense, please do put some effort, be deliberate, and make a choice today by clicking like to those things, not only to our channel, but to every channel or everything, whatever you see in the online. Please do click like, because by doing so, you are telling the algorithm that this is something what I really like. You are providing data, and data is the real currency now. So please, you have a treasure, use it wisely, use it precisely, and do join us
leverage your data.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. See you guys tomorrow.
Yes. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. And live video.